Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And as always, I am so thrilled to have my best friend of, I won't tell you how many years, and co-host of the Author to Authority podcast, Juanita Wootton-Radko.
Good morning, Kim.
So today we're going to be continuing our series on the book that I'm writing this year called Author to Authority. And today we're going to look at one really critical skill that you need to have, and that's your in-person skills. And most people don't really think about that skill because they just want to build their business. You know, when you're an entrepreneur, you just want to get going. You know, you kind of want to hit the finish line before you've even taken your first step.
Mm-hmm. Money, 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 money.
Money. Okay, I got a thought for you there, Juanita. We're coming up to our 100th episode. You and I are going to have to sing something.
Sounds good. Here it is, turning 100, and we don't look a day over 32.
Yay! Well, I had a great compliment today. I was on another podcast just before this one, and the gentleman looked at me and he says, "You don't look anywhere near old enough to be a grandma." I'm like, "Thank you." But we do want to focus in on entrepreneurs today.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard because you go between two things. You go between already wanting to have hit the finish line and you try to jump ahead, or you get so discouraged and you never start. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to cover and talk about your in-person skills today, because it is the easiest and the quickest way to start gaining authority. And you want to know the amazing thing about it, Juanita, is the fact that it costs nobody. You don't have to have a website. You don't have to have a social media following. All you need is two things. You need yourself and you need something to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Juanita, you're actually very good at your in-person skills, and you learned a lot of that, especially when you owned your sewing shop. So what would be your best suggestion for coming across with confidence in your in-personal skills? Because that is one of the keys to positioning yourself as an authority when you start out as an entrepreneur and nobody even knows your name.
I'm glad you asked, Kim, because I was thinking about my process. Woo! I sound like it's not complicated. It seems like something you're going to hear Mr. Rogers say. I look at the person, and even before I start approaching them, I smile at them, and in my head, this is what's most important. I think I want to be their friend. I want to get to know this person, and I automatically want to smile, thinking, I bet that person's nice, and I give them the opportunity to demonstrate how much of a nice person they are, how I will like them. And if I go in with having set the stage mentally for how our interaction is going to be, that helps so much. That is a big part of in-person, is anticipating the other person being welcoming to you, and that immediately relaxes you.
And I think you brought up a really good point there, because when you're trying to become that authority and you're meeting new people and you're trying to build your clientele, and there's no question, as an entrepreneur, especially if you're a service-based entrepreneur or you're a professional or you're a coach, you have to build that clientele, and you have to do it quickly. You know, that's the only way that you're going to build a sustainable business. But I like what you said. You have to approach them as a new friend. You can't approach them with the dollar signs in your eyes.
Yes. Because we've all been approached by that person who sees you as an open wallet.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a person, you're a commodity to them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a number.
Yeah. Yeah. And the things that help to establish you as someone who does do more, who does want a relationship rather than a little more money in the bank, is that you care about the other person,
Mm-hmm.
you use their name when you're talking to them, and you connect with them. I think one of the things that most people like, they won't say it, but but if you notice something about a person, like, Kim, I love your new top. That color looks great on you. You automatically went,
thanks.
oh. Yeah. You will see people kind of go, oh, yeah, thank you. I do like this color myself. I just picked it up. Or then, because secretly we're all kind of like kids in kindergarten on some level, is that I hope someone notices that I wore my new shoes today, or whatever. I hope someone notices me and thinks that I'm special.
Yes.
And when you notice someone and something about someone, whether it's what they're wearing or acknowledging something that they do, that's another one, is paying respect to that person's profession
Mm-hmm.
or their problem, because you as an entrepreneur are a person with solutions.
Yes.
And then when they come to you, they say, hi, I'm here because, I just wish I could be outside in my garden today, but it's full of weeds. I haven't gotten the time to work on it. Then that would be a moment to ask them what about their garden. Have they got any arrangements in there for flowers or whatever? Maybe a landscaper. You might compliment them on their creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's many ways that you can be paying attention and give someone a sincere compliment.
Yes. And
If you're-
sincere.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nothing worse than a fake compliment and you know it.
Absolutely. It's amazing how our bologna and spaghetti detectors are
Thank
highly
you for the clean
sensitive.
language there.
We know when there's something in the air, shall I speak? Okay, this is a sidebar. My daughter told me a joke last night. She said, bologna is just hot dog pancakes. Convince me I'm wrong. And I'm like, well, I got nothing. Okay. This moment brought to you by the letter WA. That was a funny joke.
Oh. But I think, you talk about sincerity, and that is a key component of your in-person skills in building authority, is you have to be comfortable in your own skin. And you have to care about the other person, not more than you care about yourself. But I was actually talking about the word meekness with someone And he was explaining to me that the true meaning of the word meekness is actually to defer honor to the other person.
That's different than being timid. Timid is afraid.
Yes.
But being able to give up your need for honor and attention and reflect it back to the other person is a gift.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the true signs of authority is when you can do that and be okay with the other person getting all the attention and still be okay within yourself.
That's very powerful.
And so the other thing I think that's important too is your body language. We talked about, getting around those people with the dollar signs. And sometimes it's not even what they say. Sometimes you just get that feeling from their body language. So here's another important point about your interpersonal skills. No matter how bad things are business-wise, and every business either goes through, the opening can sometimes be hard in building that business, or every business goes through a slump period. Either circumstances happen or things happen. You can never come across as desperate. Your body language must convey, I am interested in you. I am interested in learning about you. I'm interested in developing a relationship with you. And if that turns into us working together, great. If it doesn't, I don't care. Your body language should convey, I've got more than enough business coming in. And you could say, well, isn't that a lie? If you've got no business coming in and yet your body language is conveying, I call it faith. Mm-hmm. I calling acting out as you want your life to be and believing that you have those things that, that God supplies your needs.
Yes.
Right? And it's not the other person.
It really takes a lot of pressure off of the interaction if you are not relying on them or you need to get something from the other person. It takes pressure off you. It takes pressure off your prospective client. It's very freeing.
Yeah.
If you can do that.
And I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it also helps you, having that attitude can save you from being partnered with the wrong person, because sometimes
yes,
we meet people who we think are the right fit, and then when
you rush
they
into
show
it.
their true colors, we go, we're really not well suited to each other for whatever reason.
Yes.
I'll just be polite about that and say that we've all had the nightmare client.
Yes. Yep, that's for sure.
And now imagine that you recognize that you have a nightmare client, but they love having you where they've got you under their thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And because they pay you, you feel like you're bonded to them, enslaved to them, because you like having breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have been there. Let's be honest. We didn't pop out into the world thinking, oh yes, God is my supply and everything will be fine right out of the gate. That was something that we had to grow to. It wasn't, we've got it all sussed out.
And I think, even though people told us the same message we're now telling others, sometimes you only learn through experience.
Yes, it's true.
And you think, oh, what do they know? No, this will be okay to take this client on. And people are saying, don't touch that person. Don't touch that person. You're like, well, I really need the money, so I'm going to take that person on. And then you get partway through the job and you're like, it was not worth the money.
Yeah. Just this once. I think that is such a dangerous phrase. Just this one time, or I just need to do it till I get.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you find that you'll continue to make exceptions and reasons for why you keep needing to work with this toxic person.
And I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes, that toxic person takes up so much of your time that the right customer that was sitting there, you never get to connect with. And that's another thing about building authority, is it does take time.
Mm-hmm.
This is not an overnight journey. This is not the rags to riches, the overnight success that takes 10 years. I mean, really, like if you look at a lot of the big people out there, and I've read a lot of their stories, even people like John C. Maxwell and Jim Rohn and Les Brown and that, they all had, their beginnings when nobody knew who they were. And they were just faithful and consistent, to keep getting their message out there, to keep building their audience, to keep doing those actions that was going to take them to where they wanted to go.
I think it's goes back to your idea of the finish line, mm-hmm. wanting to be at the finish line. You have to have that passion and that vision that the finish line is where I'm going to end up. But until you get there, your job is to one foot in front of the other. And sometimes, like in a marathon, you can't think of, oh, the finish line is 3 miles from here. You've got to think, I can make it to that next intersection. Mm-hmm. I can make it to that big oak tree mm-hmm. coming up. And you're giving yourself little milestones. I can get to the next one. All right, I got there. Now where am I looking at? And
I can run 5 more steps.
Yes. Yeah. Pick them up and put them down. Pick them up and put them down.
And that's the thing. Like people don't realize that it's the consistency behind the scenes that builds authority. And the other thing too is most people don't understand momentum point. And that's where you've done so much consistently. So you've built your communication skills, you've built your network, you've built your social media following, you've done all these things, you're starting to get out into media. And what happens is that it hits momentum point where it starts to take a life of itself, because it's not just your actions anymore. You see, when you've mm-hmm. built that network and you've built that clientele and you're connecting with people above you and you're getting your name out there, all of a sudden it hits a point where other people start telling other people about you. And that's when momentum starts to happen, because it's now not just, you talking to 10 people. It's, your 50, best clientele now talking to 10 people, so it does take time to develop, though. It doesn't happen overnight. It's that consistent effort in the background. But when momentum hits, that's the sweet point.
I think too, it's not until you're actually a little bit past that momentum point, that tipping point, and you look back and you go, oh, look at that. Hey, it's starting to have, it's sort of like the wave has already crested and is starting to break. It's not that you can go, all right, if I just get 5 more people in my email list, then that's it. I've hit the point where this is self-sustaining. It's more of oh, look at that.
It happened.
Here we are. We're almost at our 100th episode, and we have people tuning in. We've had more downloads, and that's pretty darn exciting. So that momentum is sort of something that you see in the rear view mirror and go, great, now it's time to surf. I have no idea if surfing is I think you have to avoid the wave hitting you, but I like the idea that we're surfing.
So as we start to wind down here, Juanita, I want to talk about the beginning point. So I think it entails three things. First of all, you have to have something to sell. Mm-hmm. Because if you're building your network and your social media and all this, but you have nothing to offer them, you don't have a business.
Right.
You need to realize that this is a business, and businesses bring in money and businesses sell things. And that's okay. It's okay to do that. You know, when you do it with a genuine heart to serve and help people, it is okay to accept money, and it's okay to accept a lot of money for your skills, talents, and abilities. Now, I'm not talking about ripping people off, and I'm not talking about manipulating people into buying things they don't want. But if you're doing the right actions, you're going to find the right people who have the money, who want to buy what you have. So you need to make sure you've got something to sell.
And you have to believe in your product or your service, and that it's worth the price that you're charging for. When I had my shop, I sold sewing machines that ranged from $99 till right up to $15,000 sewing machines. Mm-hmm. And I had to practice telling people the price. And that was one of my, how many people do you need to talk to? How many people do you need to meet? You have to practice quite a lot. When you say that a sewing machine is $49.99, and they're like, oh, that's really great. And I'm like, no, not $50, $4,999. And after a while, it gets kind of funny, the look on their face. They go, what? But you have to practice that. Like, yeah, the price isn't really the important part. Mm-hmm. It costs what it costs. And this is really worth it. And I believe this is why my product is worth this. My service is worth this. My time is worth this. You will be so glad that you invested not only in me, but in yourself. Mm-hmm. Because this is going to reward you in the future. You're going to look back at this as value. Yeah. I think that's something that is really important for a client to know, is that you need to make sure your customers, your clients, do not have buyer's remorse.
Yes.
You don't want them thinking, oh man, was I stupid to ever get involved with Brenda Bowers and her bugle bagpipe band. That's what
you always want to over deliver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That you want them thinking like, I am so glad that I met you. Mm-hmm. I am so glad that I did this. I can't believe I waited so long. I only wish I'd found out about you sooner. So that I could be enjoying my landscape garden. That I could be enjoying my surfing skills. I've never loved anything more than this new skill set that I've developed. Exactly. That is really exciting. Maybe you've got a dream home to sell that person. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And one point you brought up, I think is really important, is you have to be comfortable with the price that you're selling your products at.
Mm-hmm. And know your value.
So at first, you may price your products a little bit lower. And that's okay, but don't keep the prices there. Keep raising them. Keep challenging yourself.
I would even suggest that it's okay to go higher than you think. Mm-hmm. And because you can always bring it down.
Yes.
But the going up is a little harder. You get a little more pushback if you've got, especially if you've got regular clientele.
Well, and the thing is too, is, as you do raise your prices, one thing that, I tend to do is I can't always grandfather in the original price that I offered somebody, just because expenses have gone up. But I, for a regular client who, paid maybe significantly less because it was a few years ago, then obviously I'm going to bring my prices down as much as I can, to try and grandfather them into their original price. And that's okay, because they're your good clients and they're the ones who bring you in the referrals. But I think the last point is first of all, you have to see yourself as the expert. You have to have something to sell at a price point that you are comfortable at selling it at. But I think the third point is you have to be able to clearly explain three things: who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to know a lot to be able to speak with confidence, but you do have to know who you are. You have to know your story. Stories are powerful. What is the story behind who you are and what you do? Then know who it is that you serve, because then you're talking to the right people at the right time. And then how do you serve them? If it takes you 10 minutes to explain how you can bring value to somebody's life and help them, you've lost them and you won't get business. Many times you've only got that brief, maybe minute or two. So, sometimes there's more conversation afterwards, but you have to get that initial attention. And if it takes you 10 minutes to explain, you've lost them and they don't care. But if you can clearly explain, how you serve people in that 30-second to, 90-second time frame, then you're going to immediately know whether they're a good potential client for you and whether they're interested to even take it to the next step and have those discussions.
Yeah, I would say the question that how you can serve, I worded a little differently. I think, how can I help this person,
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's through my services, through my product? Is this something that could help them? Do they know someone that's been looking for
Mm-hmm.
my product? And again, this is a fine line, because
Yes.
I'm not looking at them as my supply, my
Mm-hmm.
open wallet. But if I knew someone was looking to make a Halloween costume, then I'd say, great, here is a simple sewing machine, and I teach a class on how to sew an easy cape. You can also make it an apron. You just shorten the cape. And ta-da! And that is something where I have solved their problem. I've given them a solution to something that they needed. And maybe that person doesn't want to sew for themselves, but they have a child that wanted to take sewing classes. Then great, a kid can learn how to sew an apron or a cape.
Yep.
It's the same thing, as I said. And that's made two people happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the, how can I sell my thing? How can this relate to other people?
Mm-hmm.
What are the kind of problems that my solution can solve? So that's thinking about it. And now it's almost like you're going out not for people to get money from, you're going out looking for, being with your radar tuned to, who can I help?
Yeah. And
With what I've
sometimes
got
helping
today.
them is by directing them to somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a big value too that doesn't get emphasized enough, Kim, is that sometimes you're not the solution to their problem. You're just the conduit that gets them to the person who can get them help.
Yeah. I mean, there's been times, there's certain types of books we just don't write.
Mm-hmm.
or we just don't cover. And so, many times I have recommended clients to my competition because they do those types of books and I don't. And you know what the amazing thing is that it's really not competition anymore, because they have referred business to me. Even though we're both publishers, we both have our specialties. And so by me sending business to them, then when they have something that they really can't handle, they're like, oh, I can't handle this, but I know the person that they can. You need to go talk to Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes collaboration.
Having that relationship is so much healthier too, when you're not looking at the person across the street and going, grr, they're out to get my customers. You're thinking, when you turn all that inward, like it's me, that brings so much tension into your life, so much unnecessary distress.
Yes.
So definitely thinking collaboratively wherever possible is definitely a much better outcome for everyone involved.
And I think the last point I want to make with the in-person skills is that you never go into it with dollar signs, but you also can't be afraid to ask for the sale. Once you've created that relationship, once you've provided that value, once you've shown them that you have what it takes, then you do need to ask for the sale. And if the answer is no, that's okay. But never be afraid to ask.
Absolutely. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's right. You always miss 100% of the shots you never take. Well, my friend, this has been an amazing podcast. I have so enjoyed our conversation today, and I know the listeners will get lots of value out of it. I want to encourage each and every one of you. If you are on this journey, this entrepreneur journey, and you want to find out more about becoming the authority in your niche, then I want to encourage you to get the free sample of my upcoming book, Author to Authority. And you can go to www.authortoauthority.com/free-sample. And you'll also get notified when the book is coming out. And I'm excited because I am planning some time in my calendar this summer to really get most of it done, so that we can do a fall release. And because I've been wanting to get this book out to all of you for a very long time now. So don't miss out. Get your free sample. You're going to get a lot of value, even in that sample part that I've sent out. Because I share some really good, valuable stuff right at the very beginning. So this has been Juanita Wootton-Radko and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Bye-bye.